Hi, I'm David Shulman, and welcome to episode 3 of David's Corner, where I talk about the things that interest me, mostly about technology and the practice of law. I have a confession. This episode is about a month late, and it almost never happened at all. Let me tell you what happened. When I first planned David's Corner, the first 6 episodes were going to be about how I use AI in my law practice. I had each episode planned out, or at least a general idea. I knew what each episode was going to be about. Episode 1 was a basic introduction and spoke a bit about the ethics of attorneys using AI in their practice. In episode 2, I introduced Claude, and I spoke about what skills and Claude Cowork were. After the first 2 episodes, the remaining episodes were each going to go deep on a specific area of my practice or how I practice. Episode 3 was going to be about how I use AI to automate my client intake process, from a potential client's first contact all the way through e-signing their engagement letter and paying the retainer online. So what I did for this episode is I created a fake client with a cutesy name and a complex family. I showed how I use a whole bunch of integrations: Smith AI, HubSpot, Decision Vault, Fireflies, which records transcripts, Clio, Asana, and QuickBooks Online, all tied together by Claude. I wrote it, then I rewrote it, then I had Claude rewrite it, then I had ChatGPT rewrite Claude's rewrite, and then I even had Notebook LM make infographics, slide decks, and animations. It was technical, it was informative, and it sucked. It was the same content you've seen a million times online that everyone else does. Just another, here's how I do things video. It was boring. It was everything I really hate about this type of content. And the worst part is you wouldn't have gotten anything out of it. It would have been just one more talking head telling you how to 10x your firm with AI. So here's the thing. I've never been good at working in someone else's system. I've always had this picture in my head of how I wanted my practice to run, and I could never actually build it. Now with AI, Claude especially, I finally can. And here's the thing also, I'm a tinkerer. I'm constantly futzing with how I do things. So even if I gave you a perfect how-to, by the time you watched it, it would no longer be doing things the way that I do them anymore. So in one of my earlier videos, I said that every time something annoys me, I build a skill for it. And since that video, I made at least 10 new skills. I made 3 in the past 2 days, so it's a moving target. If you just want to grab someone else's pre-built system and drop it into your practice, then this probably isn't for you. So I threw up my hands and I gave up. I almost abandoned the whole project because I couldn't figure out how to get a good video about how I use AI for my intake system. Then I realized I'm not bound to do what I said I was going to do. Just like my skills and procedures are always changing, I didn't have to do that episode of intake, so I'm switching things up. And I'm no longer going to commit to what the future episodes will be or to a schedule. Plus, this is YouTube. If you're watching at some point in the future, you're not going to know or care that this episode was late, because it was only late for the people, all 3 of you, who were waiting for the newest one with bated breath, one of them being my dad. So instead of a single video about my intake, I'm going into a deeper dive into Claude's skills, what they are, how I use them, how I make them, and how I'm constantly refining them. So what is a skill? A skill is a set of instructions that Claude follows every time I run it. So like I said, every time I come across a task that annoys me that I don't want to do, there's something that isn't actually the practice of law, I create a skill to do it for me. For example, every attorney hates entering time. It's one of the bigger pains in the ass about this job. So I created a skill to do it for me. I just tell Claude, add 0.3 to the Jones probate, and we'll go into Clio, my practice management system, go to the Jones probate, and not only add 0.3 in time, but we'll also write the time entry. And I'll tell you about this more later. And for you non-attorneys out there, 0.1 is 6 minutes, so 0.3 is 18 minutes. And the most important part is that I don't write the skills myself. I'm not a programmer. I don't know how to code. I tell Claude in plain English that I wanted a skill to enter time in Clio, and it created it for me. So it's not a macro. It's not some prompt I saved in the folder. It's not something I coded. It's me describing the boring, repeatable part of my job out loud, and Claude turning that into something that it can run itself. So that's what makes Claude different from just using ChatGPT or Gemini. With most AI, you type a question and you get an answer back. Then you go do something with an answer yourself. A skill doesn't hand me an answer. It's plugged into my actual stuff, my Clio, my Outlook, my files, my calendar, and it does the work for me. Same way every time. ChatGPT may write you a beautiful email. A skill writes it, puts it as a draft in Outlook, puts it on the right matter, and file it. So let's talk about the least glamorous thing about my practice, which is running it. I told you about the Clio times already. Now let me show you the part that makes it even better. And to do that, I have to tell you how I really work with Claude. It's called Cowork. Here's the short version, because I'll go deeper into Cowork on another time. Cowork is where Claude and I sit down and work on a matter together, not me typing an answer, actually working. So now we're in our real files. I think of Cowork as an associate, paralegal, legal assistant, and secretary all in one. I tell it to draft a letter or draft a reply to an email or to create a memo to the file based upon a client meeting I just had, because it reviews the transcript of the meeting that I recorded with client permission, and it does it. So here's the important thing. Just like an associate or paralegal, it's still my responsibility to review the work. I can't just tell it to draft a pleading and file it without me reviewing it, because that's how a lot of attorneys get themselves in trouble. So say I've been in Cowork all morning on the Jones probate. We drafted a petition to declare homestead status a real property. We revised it. We talked the whole thing through. The work is done. Now, the old way, I'd go open Clio, find the Jones matter, sit there, and try to remember what I did and write up the time. Every lawyer knows this part. It's the end of the day. You did 6, 8 billable things, but you've logged none of them. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, you keep your time contemporaneously. But not everyone does that all the time. You actually get caught up in the real work and you leave it till the end of the day. Some people even leave it to the end of the week or even to the end of the month to try to recreate their time. And that's a real problem. Now I just say, add 1.4. I don't even have to say to the Jones probate, and I don't have to say in Clio, because it knows what we've been working on the Jones probate. And because we've been working together, it knows what to write in the time description because it is a full log of what we worked on. And it knows it's Clio because it's connected to Clio, and it knows that's where I enter my time. It doesn't actually go navigate to the Clio website and type in the boxes like I would. Claude's actually connected in the background straight to Clio. The two programs can talk to each other directly because they're connected. So that's a thing a saved prompt or a macro can never do. A macro doesn't know what we worked on today. Claude Cowork does. The time I entered through Cowork is already clean. It wrote the description so I don't have to touch it, and I already reviewed it. But not all my time gets in that way. Sometimes I'm moving fast, I just log something quick. I spend time on an email, and I'll just write email. That's it. It's accurate, kind of. I did spend the time, but if you're the client reading your bill, but it just says email, that doesn't tell you anything. Or some things, we have to have the judge approve our time, and it doesn't tell the judge anything either. So I have a skill that goes back and fixes those. It will go back and read the actual email on the matter, and it writes what the email is really about. So a time description that just says email turns into reviewed and responded to email from opposing counsel regarding buyer's request to extend the closing date, advise clients on options, because it read the emails. It's not making anything up. It's pulling from what's already there. So that cleans up the time I did log. But here's the bigger problem. What about all the time, email time I never logged at all? Because think about how much of this job lives in email. Every matter has a pile of emails, and a lot of it is real billable work. Reading what the other side sends, answering the clients, going back and forth, and those emails are all sitting there in Clio on the matter and unbilled. No one wants to go through 50 of them at the end of the month, figure out what each one was, and write up the time. A lot of attorneys either have to take hours to do this, or they just eat it. So I built a skill for that too. It reads the emails on the matter, figures out what each one is about, writes the entry, and adds the amount of time I tell it to. The whole batch at once, not one at a time, the whole pile. course, I look it over before it posts, but it's done all the work. Here's another thing that I use Claude, Cowork, and Clio for. When I take on a new client, I tell Claude to open the file and runs the whole intake process. It creates the content in Clio that includes the name, the address, the email, the phone number, all of it. Then it creates a new matter in Clio. There are a few handful of steps in between that I'll talk about some other time. But then, when I wanted to, it even drafts an engagement letter. And this is the best part. First of all, it drafts it on my letterhead. And like most attorneys, most of my engagement letter is boilerplate template, but there's also customized portions of it because each client is different. So there's a section that describes the client situation and what we're doing for them and what their estate plan is going to be. And it gets written from everything that's already in my file. Then it automatically sends it out for signature through DocuSign. It does that automatically. It puts the signature blocks where they're supposed to be. I don't have to do any of it. The client can then sign in on their phone or computer. And then when it comes back signed, Clio knows and Claude knows and it opens up the matter. Of course, with an engagement letter, it's a contract for the client. So once again, I read it and I review it. And usually it's almost always correct, but I still review it. But once it goes, it goes. And here's another thing that's nothing to do with Clio, sending out certified mail. In probate, we also have to serve people what's known as formal notice, which is sending a copy of the pleading to them, certified mail to beneficiaries. So in the old days, you print out the letter, you fill out the green card, you have to have someone drive to the post office. It's a big deal, and it takes up time. Now I just tell Claude to send a certified letter to somebody on the matter. And it goes out, it's connected in the background through a service called Lob. It takes the PDF, it sends it to them, it sends the address, prints, and they print it, mail it, return receipt, certified mail, the whole deal, and it tracks it for me. And then Claude can even bill the cost of the certified mail to the client, all done automatically. Moving on to court stuff. This is the best part, but also we have to be most careful because this is where lawyers get in trouble. First, building the pleading. I've got a skill that I created that builds the whole thing. The caption on top, the numbering, my signature block, all of it formatted properly. If you ever fought with Microsoft Word over automatic numbering and formatting the pleading, it's a big pain in the ass. But I built a skill that does it for me. It hands me to finished documents. I edit, it's fine. Then, talking about e-filing it online. When I file a pleading into an existing case, I created a skill that actually opens the e-filing system right in my browser. It takes control over Chrome. This isn't a direct connection like Clio. It literally goes to the website. It finds the right case, fills in every field, uploads the pleading, document, all of it. I use a third-party filing system called InfoTrack, not the official portal, but it's the same thing. And then it does everything, and then it stops. It gets, I'm the one who chooses when to submit. And even does this with orders for a judge's signature, and they go through a whole different system. When I want a judge to sign an order, that goes to a different portal. Each county has their own separate site that runs to the judge's office. Almost everything I do is in Broward County. So the skill drives that one too. It opens the portal, it finds the case, fills the whole thing out, attaches my proposed order, and then before it does anything, it stops before it goes to the judge, because it allows me to check it before it goes in. So that's the whole point. This is a court filing. The machine does the typing. The machine does the web work. I hit the submit button after review. So one more skill for today, and this is the one that made the video you're watching right now. Here's the deal with the video. Recording them is easy. I sit down. Well, actually, I'm standing right now. I talk. I record. That takes, 15, 20 minutes. I do it different. But everything after that, I hate. Editing it, cutting out all the and I have to restart again, the dead air, things like that. Then I have to caption it, I have to make a thumbnail, I have to upload it to YouTube and enter in all the YouTube meta information. Then I have to write a blog post about it for my website. Then I have to schedule it and I have to post it to my website. This is really hours of work. It's actually the kind of work that made me actually stop making videos for a while. It's a pain. I could pay someone to do it, but I built a skill for the whole thing. And this one runs on its own. Every week, my partner, Jill Ginsberg, and I usually make videos about some aspect of estate planning or guardianship. So it just goes. It grabs the raw recording, it edits it, it adds the caption, and makes a thumbnail, it uploads the video to YouTube. then it takes the same video, writes a blog post about it in my voice, because I trained it on that too, and it schedules it to go up on our website. I don't have to do any of that. Again, I get to check it before it goes public. Nothing gets published that I haven't seen. But the tedious work, the stuff that I used to dread doing, I don't have to do it anymore. So here's the thing. In this video, the one you're watching right now, where I'm telling you how I built a pile of skills to run my law practice, a skill made it. I recorded it, and then the same pipeline I just described took over. So if it's edited, captioned, sitting on YouTube with a blog post on it on our website, that wasn't me, that was a skill. So that's a piece of what I built so far. I'm not going to tell you what the next David Corner is about. I'm not going to stick to a schedule. Something will annoy me. I'll build a skill for it, and maybe I'll make you a video about it, and maybe I won't. I'm David Shulman. This has been David's Corner. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.